The last matter I want to talk about here is a case study that's only just been settled. In actual fact, I got permission from the lawyers to discuss this only about 4 days ago. This is a matter of a major shopping centre in New South Wales that I was asked to investigate several years ago. And you ask about a perfect storm, and this could almost be it. It's a multi-million-dollar fire claim. It's a retail shopping facility where the original facility maintained its operations whilst the shopping centre was being extended. During that construction period, in keeping with Australian standards, and one of the ones that I almost know off by heart is Australian Standard 1674 Part 1, which is safety precautions in heating and allied processes, which most of you would be able to quote to me backwards, no doubt, will relate to hot works. Hot works is heating, grinding or any other heat producing operation. It is something in fire investigation I am involved in almost on a weekly basis. During the building education revolution that Mr Rudd brought in under his government, I was involved in the investigation or the examination of fires in multiple complexes and schools where people involved in the construction were cutting rebar, just steel reinforcing with waffle pods that are constructed of polystyrene behind them and angle grinding with the sparks going back towards the polystyrene. The properties of polystyrene allow it to burn as a petrochemical derivative, pretty much the same as petrol. The resultant fire damaged existing schools, existing structures, new parts of the development, and went on and on and on. This continues to this day. I'm involved in litigation of plumbers not following the standard, and particularly hazardous locations, where proper instructions and proper consideration of the potential threat. In other words, what's the outcome? Could a fire develop? How do we stop that developing? Could someone be injured? Now the standard, and it was great hearing from Robert with regard to the standards being there, but are they being followed? That Australian Standard 1674 Part 1, I have now been referring to for over 20 years in litigated matters. Yet the number of people that I speak to when we're conducting interviews with tradespeople who are working with them, I've had 2 be able to tell me they even know about it. Yet some of you here may be involved in sprinkler fitting, may be involved in installation work. I'd ask, do any of your tradespeople use angle grinders? Do they do any process that could create sparks? Have they made a proper consideration of that, given the hazards that may be around them? Part of the hazardous area that is defined in the Australian Standard will refer to areas where there might be flammable liquids or other contaminant that is easily combustible. Do we consider the fact that even if you are doing the work remote from where those combustibles may be, that we have to anticipate changes in wind directions or draft that could drive volatile organic compounds or ignitable vapours towards the area where the work's being done? All of those standards are in there and the hazards have to be considered. Part of that is the appointment of a responsible officer on the scene. Someone who will come in and inspect it before the work's been done, have a look at what you're going to do, check whether the safe working method statement has been done, not just in our local perimeter, but what else could be affected by it. And here comes the case study. So these guys are in this new part of the building here. They're constructing it. The building contractor then subcontracted to a demolition team who are then going to come in and bring in their subcontractors in order to cut an I-beam that was out of the way. It was involved in, or was already constructed in the building that was now over where a ventilation shaft was to be installed. So as a result, they had to cut the I-beam out with oxy. At the same time, the shopping centre realised that some of their tenants had moved out during this major reconstruction. They took the opportunity because some of the sprinkler system had been leaking. Their suspended ceiling panels had stain marks in it. I thought, we'll get it all fixed up. So the shopping centre then contracted the fire company to come in and fix the leaks. This photograph's taken by me when I turn up to examine the fire, where one tenant alone had a $4 million loss. As we go through, you'll see it's all been pulled down. And if you look closely on the floor, you'll see whole sections of pipe where the sprinkler system was not only isolated, but the pipes taken apart, there's elbows on the floor, the fittings which completely decommissioned the fire sprinkler system at that time. Whilst the fire sprinkler system is now isolated with no water in it, the building contractor and its demolishers then began doing hot work and oxy-cutting in an adjacent section. Formerly, the division between the new and the old section was framed up by glass on an emergency exit. But in order to not damage the glass, expanded polystyrene panels were installed as the barrier. EPS panelling, as the name suggests, has got polystyrene. I've already referred to that being a petrochemical derivative. It has a flammability rating of 1, which means it's not readily combustible. So you and I walking through coals, or someone else in the real cold section there, don't have to worry too much about it bursting out into flame while we're walking around. If, however, you bring naked flame into its environment and start affecting the polystyrene, it will burn like the dickens. So we're now using panels to separate the area above which people are now doing oxy-cutting.